Hi, I'm Elliot Sarba of Anomaly Drafting and Design. In this week's video, we're going to be talking about CCAN homes. Are they worth it to build? Well, hopefully by the end of this video, we can find out. So, where in the city can you build your CCAN house? Well, I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and here we have very strict zoning bylaws. So therefore, your shipping container, you have to make sure that it's not mistaken for a mobile home. A mobile home has a foundation that's pretty much a bunch of piles and a beam, and the structure just sits on top so that it can be easily be removed. So therefore, you got to be doing a slab on grade type of foundation, like a detached garage, to be considered a single family dwelling. A single family dwelling has way more freedom to be built almost anywhere in the city compared to a mobile home. Next, depending on the dimensions of your lot, you're going to be figuring out the orientation of your project. Now, for me, every time when people ask me questions about shipping container homes, I always be thinking about you're in one container. I keep forgetting that a lot of these container homes are sandwiched together with multiple containers, or they're stacked. So I would say that if you're planning on stacking your shipping containers, be very careful because they're not easy to work with. Shipping containers, if you see them on shipping barges and things like that, they're always corner to corner because that's where most of the load is bearing down. If you were to take a container and position it perpendicular to the one on the bottom, then you're compromising the structural integrity of that bottom shipping container. So your structural engineer is going to spend a lot of time trying to fabricate some additional supportive structure to help with your design. So be very careful with that. Next, if you're in a single container, be mindful of the windows and the doors. The more you cut into the corrugated metal that is around your shipping container, you're compromising the structural integrity of the entire container. So the bigger the window is, watch out, because you can eventually cut too much and then you have to throw your container away and start again from scratch. So listen to your structural engineer, be very cautious of your design. Next, think about is insulation. Here in Canada, we have very extreme climate. One day we're minus 30, and then the next day it's plus 10 degrees Celsius. So using a conventional insulation like bad insulation, I would not recommend it with a container home. Shipping containers are made of metal, and metal is a conductor, not an insulator. Therefore, you're going to have to spray foam every crevice in that shipping container in order for it to withstand the elements that we have out here. With that in mind, you also have to be aware of the dimensions of your shipping container, because in order to insulate, have your outlets, anything that has to recess into the walls, you got to frame into your container, and that means you're taking up a lot of floor space and headroom. So after a little bit of research, I realized that shipping containers come in various sizes, and then the best size to get is the 9'6" in height, and that's 40 feet in depth. So yes, keep that in mind. Next is your general contractor. Get somebody who is very knowledgeable about modular homes and works with a lot of various types of construction, different types of materials. I think that when you're starting to bring more containers together, for that building envelope to really work, an experienced contractor is the way to go. If it was going to be a single container that you really wanted to do yourself, if you're somebody who's very knowledgeable and you have the correct tools, then go for it. But if you're starting to stack certain containers or sandwiching them together, get a contractor. He will see more than you're going to anticipate, and he can help you tremendously. So I recommend that. Your costs. It's always tough talking about money, but these I find it to be more expensive than wood frame construction. If I were to build a house the same square footage as a shipping container home, I would run into the shipping container costing more than the house. It's not that I'm against shipping containers, it's just that wood frame construction allows a lot more alternatives than the where you're restricted to a shipping container to which you have to get certain materials in order for it to work, especially for a climate like ours. So very much so keep that in mind. In the end, are shipping containers a good way to build? Sure. I'm just not overly convinced to having them be another form of conventional build here in Canada. But I know that there's a lot of, there's more and more shipping container built buildings and houses and things like that. But the process is very complex. I believe they do well in other parts of the world, but for here, I think we have a long ways to go before we can nail it, and then you can say it's like more common than anything else, really. So that's pretty much it. If you like to learn more about building a container home, I've added 2 videos, so you just have to scroll down. One video is by Belinda Carr, and she goes into more detail about container homes, especially with the actual container itself. So if you are really motivated on doing container home, watch that video. She tells you things to avoid if you really want to move forward with this. The second video is by Container Luxury, and he does a great video of breaking down the materials for your container home. It's a very good watch. Keep in mind it is based on US pricing, so you're going to have to do the exchange dollar in your brain and kind of figure out your budget that way. But it is a good place to start if you're really looking forward on getting a start on your shipping container. So that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.